It's the Off the Ball League of Ireland podcast with Jamie Moore here. We're in the Hilton Hotel at Clare Hall, looking ahead to the First Division playoff, well, the first round at least, this coming Friday and Monday. Shels against Drogheda. I'm very happy to be joined by a man from each team. Drogheda's Gareth McCaffrey and Shelburne's Karl Moore. Lads, thanks for having a chat with me. I suppose we'll start with the home team in the opening leg, and we're looking forward to the first leg in Drogheda on Friday. Gareth, your thoughts on trying to get through to Monday? I suppose win an advantage if you can to take the talker.
Yeah, look, we're all, from our point of view anyway, we're all obviously looking forward to it. When you get to this stage of the year, it's always nice to be involved in terms of hopefully getting promoted. Look, we know well, myself anyway, and a couple of the lads who are at Drogheda at the moment have been involved in the playoffs before, and we know how difficult it can be. So look, we'll have a good training week this week. Obviously, with being at home on Friday, it's a little bit of an advantage. But as you said, we have to go to Talca Park on Monday, and that's always a hard place to go, especially the way Shels are playing at the moment. So yeah, we're all looking forward to it. What
are the keys in your, previous experience of the playoffs?
I suppose to stay level-headed. We went to Wexford and we lost 3-0, and we ended up turning around at home. So we know how ties can be swung in terms of home and away advantage. So really, just I suppose to keep composed throughout the whole process and trust in your game plan, I suppose. Yeah.
It's been an interesting few weeks with the way things went with Longford in the hunt as well, and you guys had to play on the last night of the season to ensure in the end results didn't really matter because they only drew. But the fact that things were competitive right to the last game, is that a plus point given that you're going into now games that you can't afford to lose over two legs?
Yeah, absolutely. It keeps the intensity up, I suppose, right the way through. Obviously everybody was match fit and we've got a full squad to choose from, which is obviously a bonus as well. But when you're going into the last two games against Longford and obviously Cove away, knowing that you have to make points and you have to put out performances, it keeps you ticking over right up until the business end now. Yeah.
For you, Karl, you moved to Shels in the summer break. You've had a really good spell so far, and your opening thoughts on these games against Drogheda on Friday and Monday?
Yeah, going to be a tough place to go. Like I've played in Drogheda a few times with different clubs, and it's always a difficult place to go. It's a tight pitch, and they've a young team, fit team, and it's going to be a difficult place to play. So we're going up there. The lads have had a couple of tough games against them this year. I don't think they've beat them yet. Two tight games, a couple of last minute goals, and Sean Brennan's last minute free kick in the game in Talca. So there's not been too much between us, so we're just hopeful we'll go up there and we'll get a result we can take back to Talca Park. And so as long as we're in the tie coming back to Talca, we'd be happy with that.
Yeah, 2 1-1 draws in the league, and the 1-0 win, as Karl mentioned, Sean Brennan's 89th minute free kick, fantastic free kick right off the stanchion as such to pick up 3 points for Drogheda. Since you've come in the summer, in and around that time, it looked like Shels might actually mount a push to win the league, but UCD were always a little bit ahead, and Finn Harps ended up finishing second. You were guaranteed playoffs heading into the final weekend, but you've still been in okay form, and you'll be hopeful to carry the momentum of the likes of yourself and Paddy Kavanagh and Greg Morehouse since you've come into these games.
Yeah, we're unbeaten in quite some time in the league, but unfortunately picked up probably too many draws, which has had us behind the likes of UCD and Finn Harps, and they finished the league quite strong in fairness to both of them. So it was always going to be an uphill task, but I suppose it was important for us to get a bit of form coming into the playoffs. We kind of stagnated a bit with the game against Athlone and Cabo, but we picked up a win against Galway, and the Leinster Senior Cup is a big boost around the place. So yeah, just hopeful now we can really carry that on into the playoffs and kick on from there.
Yeah, you're away first on Friday, and as we mentioned, home on Monday. The away game being first, does that make a difference in terms of how you approach it? And obviously you want to come back to Talca and ensure that you're still in the match and with a great chance to make that home advantage count.
Yeah, that's it. We need to go up there and just make sure that we're still in the game, bringing it back to Talca, and I think our form's been fairly decent there this year, so we'd be hopeful of that, but it's not going to be easy home or away. There's not been much between the teams, like I said earlier. So just hopefully, we'll keep level-headed and don't let the occasion get to us, and we'll have something to play for in the second game.
I suppose, Gareth, the fact you've played 27 league matches, which there's point on the line each week, but now it's effectively knockout football, and I know Ollie Horgan, the Finn Harps manager, spoke recently about it almost being like a cup where you're in the quarter-finals now, because you've got to play a round and then you've got to play effectively a semi-final if you get through, and then a final against Limerick. It'll be an interesting few weeks, the fact that these games, there's a lot on them. It's basically win or bust.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if I'm being honest, I don't think the format is kind of favourable towards either ourselves or Shelburne, and in terms that we've got 3 games in a week. But as I said before, being involved in the playoffs, I think we played Cove, and whatever day it was, and 3 days later we had to play Wexford. So we're used to it from that point of view. But yeah, look, it's as Karl said, it's going to be very difficult in terms of whoever gets the Finn Harps, and then obviously looking beyond in terms of whoever's on the lower end of the Premier Division coming down. But look, as Karl said, everybody's got to prepare for it as much as they can, and I'm sure Ollie will have his troops rallied as well.
In terms of your team, Drogheda, we mentioned Sean Brennan, and he's probably the most experienced player in the group. You wouldn't be too far behind him, even though you're only kind of in your mid to early 20s. There's lots of young players in the squad. We've spoken this year to Kieran Kelly and to Connor Kane, two very good young players. There's others around the group. You'd probably say Chris Lyons is probably an experienced one as well. But there's been a really good mix of experienced players and young players, and you're probably in the middle, but up towards the experienced edge of the squad.
Yeah, I think Kev Doherty and Tim have done really well in terms of the group that they've gathered. We're kind of a tight knit group. We all look after each other in terms of on and off the pitch. In terms of experience, you've obviously got Sean Brennan, Paul Skinner, and look, I'm only 22, but it feels like I've been around for a lot longer. And then obviously, as you said, we got some of the young lads coming up who've really kind of pushed on this year. Connor and Kieran, as you mentioned, have done really, really well. So yeah, look, we've got a good squad, and we'll make a good go with it. Experience
of the playoffs is important, but I suppose for the young players as well, just to be able to go and to express themselves and to try and play without fear of, if I make a mistake, it might knock us out of the playoffs, and that'll be an important kind of role for everybody this week, the experienced players and the coaches, to make sure the young players aren't overly kind of nervy heading into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think some of the younger lads play with no fear anyway. I remember when I was that age, I didn't feel that much pressure in terms of getting results, whatever. Just wanted to play as well as I could. Whereas now, as you're getting on a bit, obviously I see with Paul Skinner and Sean, where the kind of ethos is, getting behind everybody in the team, make sure the results are there. So that's kind of creeping into my head a little bit in terms of where we are going forward. But in terms of the younger lads, look, they've been brilliant, and as long as they play the way they have been playing, I think they'll do very well.
Karl, it's a bit of the opposite of Shelburne, a very experienced team with a couple of younger ones. I know a few of the younger players have really impressed in recent weeks, but the ones who Owen brought in the window, yourself and Paddy, are very experienced. Greg Morehouse is younger but has played a bit, and then you've got the likes of Derek Prendergast, Alan Byrne, Dean Delaney, Lorcan Fitzgerald. It's a very experienced team that's used to playing Premier Division football and I suppose important games.
Yeah, very experienced team, especially through the spine of it and the back four. So yeah, the lads have been around the block and they know what it takes. So hopefully we can kind of lean on their experience there to go throughout the group, and hopefully that will help us get over the line.
And then you've young players like Shane Farrell has been in and out of the team this year. He's done really, really well, and since you've come in, you've got a hat-trick in one of the games. I know Paddy Kavanagh's impressed as well. So at the attacking end of the pitch, you've got the likes of Dave O'Sullivan and James English and others, lots of players who can impact it in a positive way, and you've done it since you've joined as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's team selection certainly going to be interesting on Friday, especially given the way some of the younger lads played last week against Pats, and some lads' form coming in towards the end of the season. So lots of options there, which is going to be good, because probably going to need it with a Friday Monday game, and then without looking too far ahead, like for either us or Drogheda, it could potentially be 6 games, in the space of 3 weeks. So it's certainly going to need to call on everyone, and everyone's going to need to be sharp. And we're lucky that we have enough firepower coming off the bench that can affect games.
Yeah, that's something probably that's not being considered yet, is that both of these teams, most of the players, if not all of them, work full-time or in full-time education, and they'll play Friday and play Monday. We're sitting here on Tuesday afternoon, both the lads are on their lunch break from work, and to be able to have to go to Drogheda on Friday and then a home game Monday, and then is it a Friday, Monday the following week against Finn Harps, like away to Finn Harps, for example, if you have to go there on a Monday or whatever it might be, like it is a test that the first division players haven't faced too much, even though you would have faced it a bit this year when you were at Bowes.
Yeah, obviously less games in the first division, so it's probably not as demanding, but yeah, there's a lot of lads there that work full time, or they're in full time education, so I suppose they're gonna have to get onto their bosses for a bit of annual leave and see can they sort them out there. But there's lads certainly used to it, like you said earlier. There's a lot of lads that played in the Premier, they'd be used to the demanding schedule. So I suppose, given the nature of it, that it's the playoffs and what's at stake, the adrenaline might just push you through, and you might be able to just give that final push towards the end of the season.
You're also working, Gareth. How will you and how have you been able to swing, life as a League of Ireland footballer as well as working full time?
Yeah, look, it's difficult. I think everybody who plays in League of Ireland who has a full-time job or is in full-time education finds it quite difficult. I've been lucky in terms that a couple of my managing directors and bosses are ex-League of Ireland players, so they kind of understand where I'm coming from in terms of leaving a little bit earlier for training if you've got to go to Cove or Finn Harps, so they get it from that point of view. So I've been quite lucky, but I do know there's a lot of lads who struggle with the conditions of it,
If you're trying to capture the local people and draw in the imagination of them, a series like this is a great chance to do that. We've got the great news. We spoke to Fikar Kieran, the club owner, recently about the new stadium and the plans to try and be more active in the community, but just to try and capture the attention, the imagination of the fans for this home game on Friday and get them in the door to try and help cheer you guys on will be big, because attendances in the First Division vary, and they vary on how the team is doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, without talking too much about anybody else, I think UCD, when they played Dundalk, were a great showcase for the First Division. I think they played really good football, and that's obviously down to Karl and the way that his team were set up. But just in terms of the quality of their First Division, and show that we can kind of put it up against the best of them, From a Drogheda point of view, look, the playoffs are massive games, and I think everybody around Drogheda has bought into that as well. Previously, I think United Park was sold out for a couple of the playoff games, which is fantastic, and the Drogheda fans obviously always get behind us. So really, we'd be asking for them all to come out and support us as they have done all season, yeah.
When you're playing, does it make much of a difference if there's a bigger home crowd there, and if so, in what ways? I
think so. I think it'd be silly not to, if you're down and out, maybe 80 minutes gone, and you're feeling something, if somebody in the crowd cheers you on, or you get a roar out of somewhere, or you score kind of a last minute goal, and it gives you that kind of extra 10 or 15% maybe when your back's against the wall. Obviously it gives you a massive advantage, yeah.
You've just moved, as we said, in the summer, Karl, from the Premier to the First Division. Firstly, why leave Bohs and move to Shels?
It was just all down to game time for me. Playing for enjoyment, and had a bit of head loss. Going to training 3 nights a week, and then kind of not knowing if you're coming or going for games. So, so the potential for games was greater at Shelburne, and once I spoke to home, my mind was made up. So, just purely for football reasons.
Were you conscious? Clearly, you were conscious of moving from the Premier, and we've seen Bohs recently in the FAI Cup semi-final, winning 9 games in a row, to playing in the First Division, but you knew you were going to a big club that were on the push to get promoted.
Well, that's it, yeah. They were in a good position in the league, and they're ambitious, and they were looking to see if they could put the pressure on UCD and Finn Harps. Unfortunately, we didn't catch them, but we're still in a great position to still be in the mix come the end of the season. So it's nice to be going somewhere you're playing for something, and every game is very important, and we're playing good football, and playing more games than it was at Bohs, so yeah, more enjoyable anyway.
How have you found playing in the First Division as opposed to playing in the Premier? As you said, you're enjoying your football, you're scoring goals, you're affecting games from an attacking point of view, and you're in a race to get promoted.
That's it, yeah. There's great quality in the First Division. Obviously our first game against Longford, we beat them fairly comfortably in the end, but they were on top for a good hour of the game, and just a mad kind of 20 minutes swung that in our favour. But yeah, there's good quality certainly in the league, and in terms of being with Shels and playing for something, and every game is important, and we're playing on the front foot, so it's different. I suppose every game you're kind of expected to win or expected to get something out of the game, yeah, so it's different, but it's enjoyable. What did
Owen Heary sell to you about Shelburne, because it is a new project and there's a new owner and a new chief executive, and new people around the club trying to improve things and trying to get them back up as well, but what did he actually sell to you to make you want to sign for them?
It's just the ambition and where they see themselves going, and and how they see themselves getting there. So just the potential of the club's always going to be there. Like historically, when I was growing up, Shels were always competing for honours with the likes of Bohs and Cork, but yeah, it's just the potential to get them days back, and just that they have the investor there, and the plan in place, and they're hopeful of getting there, so I'd like to be a part of that.
Speaking of trying to get there, you mentioned your debut against Longford. I was at the game. I think 6-1 in the end, was it? 1-0, it goes to 2-0, then the ref blocks a ball, and all of a sudden I think it's 2-1, 3-1, red card, and all of a sudden you're grabbing a hat-trick, and it's 6-1, and it's a fantastic win and a great debut. What do you remember about your 3 goals? Was it a perfect hat-trick? No, it was. Yes. My memory serves me correctly. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we went 1-0 up against a run of play. They got one back just after half time, and I was kind of edging in their favour, and we think we got one on the break and on the red card, and we really pushed on from there. We seized the opportunity, but just a bit of a mad game, I hadn't played in a while, and so I was in it, so I was wondering, geez, will I last the 90 minutes? But yeah, lucky I did, and managed to just pop up in the right place, right time, and just somehow managed to score a header. Don't know how, but probably the first one. But just a great day, dream debut, I suppose. Probably couldn't got off to a better start result and a couple of goals. So.
Ever scored a perfect hat-trick, Mr. McCaffrey?
I don't think so. No, not a senior level anyway. No.
Okay, what do you remember about, and I just spoke to Karl there, he's smiling, talking about the big wins that Shels have got this season. If you could put your finger on your club, Drogheda, what was the biggest win or the win where you thought, you know what, this gives us a great chance to be able to get through? I would think that free kick by Sean Brennan in Talca to beat them 1-0 was a big one. Yeah,
it was massive. I remember, I think myself, I played 90 minutes in that game again. Don't know how. I think I was struggling in terms of fitness at the time. Managed to get through, but look, when you have someone like Sean who can put the ball in the top corner from 30 yards out, it's fantastic. He's done it against Galway and he's done it against a couple of other teams as well. So really, I think that was a turning point from our season. Really, after that, I remember being in the dressing room at Talca, and we went, right, I think we can really push on here. Between then and now, obviously there was a few results didn't go our way, and we made a right job at nearly messing it up for ourselves, but look, we got there in the end and we're looking forward to it now.
Of course, you beat Longford a couple of weeks ago as well. Having been 1-0 down, I think you came back to win that match 2-1, and that jumped you above them, and you ended up being able to stay above them, so that was an important one right at the business end as well. Yeah,
of course, it was a big game. We knew, I think both teams knew how big it was in terms of who would be here at the end of the season. We went 1-0 down. Even when we went 1-0 down, we still felt relatively confident that, look, we could get something out of the game. We didn't want to go into Cove knowing that we had to win, which obviously wasn't the case when we beat Longford. Look, I was lucky enough that I scored the 2 goals in that night, but it could have been any one of the lads. We had a number of chances, and I think we should have probably bet them by more.
Now, I know in the League of Ireland most players and managers and teams know each other very well. You've played against Shelburne, I think it's 4 times this season, including a 7-2 game in one of the cups. But how in depth will Tim go this week, and Kev, I know because Tim is suspended, into kind of the strengths and the negatives of Shels, and is there video work done at first division level at this at this type of stage?
Yeah, look, there's video work done, but not an awful lot. As you said, everybody knows everybody in this league, so in terms of who you're coming up against, the players nearly know already. So look, Tim and Kev we'll have a walkthrough maybe on Thursday and go through your usual set pieces and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of playing against your opposite number or your opposite position, I think everybody knows where we stand now. Yeah.
Now, I know one man that will be mentioned has to be Lorcan Fitzgerald. I say this every time I talk about him. He's the best left foot I've ever seen in the league, including you. And his corners are just unbelievably good. I remember a game I saw recently in Talk where he's whipped in an unbelievable shot cross free kick that's been scored, and he's a real plus point, particularly in United Park. He can whip that ball right in middle of that 6-yard box, that goal, so you'll need to be aware and get your big men in the box to be aware of his crosses. Yeah,
absolutely. Look, Lorcan's set pieces, I think everybody knows how good they are, whether it's a corner or a free kick. So look, we're aware of that, but on the opposite end then we've got Sean Brennan and Richie Purdy actually isn't too bad at free kicks either, so look, I think both teams, kind of their characteristics will nearly contradict each other. So as you said previously, it's nearly like a knockout round. It's a cup round. So it's going to be who's the better team in the day.
How in depth will you guys go in looking at them before the game?
Yeah, Owen, he's very leaves no stone unturned. So we'll have all the good information. Will come from him, and it'll just be down to us to execute and to listen and stick to the game plan. But yeah, kind of similar to Gareth, and I think probably most teams in the first division, they do their general sets and run through the opposition.
I mentioned Lorcan to Gareth about defending against him. For you being in his team, and I know you across your career would have taken set pieces as well, but to have a couple of options like that is very, very good. But he's really, really talented at those balls.
Yeah, his delivery is ridiculous. Like I'd say in terms of the whole of the Electricity Premier and First Division, his set plays are probably the best. And it helps that we have a good aggressive people attacking it as well. I'm normally just sitting at the back because vertically challenged and all that. No, it's definitely a bonus to have in your team, and it's certainly dangerous. But like you said, Dave Sean Brennan as well. So we have to be on our toes at the other end as well.
Yeah, but I mentioned that the experienced players in your team, and if you look at the height of them, you've got Derek Prendergast, you've got Alan Byrne, you've got Aidan Collins, you've got James English, who's 6'2". Maybe I know a lot of the long balls are aimed towards him when they're kicked by Dean Delaney. I'm probably missing a couple of other of the bigger players in the team. But when you have people like that, with a desire to get it and looking to whip them in, it's a huge plus point for you guys. And I'm sure there's 9 to 12 points or more that have been won this season off the back of that.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly helps, obviously, having the height in the team, but you know, they're not just there for that. Obviously, Aiden and Dale are very good players, and English is very effective at stretching teams, and he pops up with important goals now and again. So yeah, it is a bonus to have, and then having Larkin's quality as well, like, it certainly helps us pick up points throughout the season. And yeah, so hopefully it will help us pick up a win now come Friday and Monday. Well, I suppose time will tell.
Yeah, you mentioned James English there. His nickname is Burbach. Do you know why?
I haven't a clue. Don't know anything about that fella. Don't want to know.
Yeah, because he's Burbach. Like, it's like, why is he called this? There's many nicknames in the league. This man is called Mersey. Have you a nickname, Gareth?
No, I don't actually.
Just
no.
Gareth?
Stupid, I think every now and then I've been called, yeah, but no nicknames.
Okay, nice. My last couple of questions, because the lads are rushing back to work. Ambition to play in the Premier League. You've done it for a lot of your career, as has Gareth as well. To get back there, it's obviously, we've spoken about the road you need to go through. You need to win these 2 games, Finn Harps, and then against likely to be Limerick, but the ambition to be back there is huge for everybody in the first division, because you do want to be playing at the top table in the league and going to Tallaght and Turner's Cross and Oriel Park and Richmond and that 4 times twice a year, and hosting them as well. Yeah,
that's it. I mean, every professional wants to play at the highest level. They want to test themselves in any walk of life. So yeah, certainly you don't turn up to training throughout the year just to go through the motions. You know, you want something at the end of the day. So that's certainly going to be our aim, and you know, it's going to drive us on. It's a long road to get there, but you know, Friday's the start.
Gareth, for you, Premier ambitions again?
Yeah, of course, it'd be silly not to, really. Obviously, as Mersey's just said, everybody in the first division, I presume, would want to play in the Premier Division. You know, you look at the likes of, you got your Cork, Dundalk, where they sell out stadiums. You want to be playing in that kind of atmosphere every week. So look, everybody's got aspirations, and I think everybody in Drogheda wants to be there as well.
It's the League of Ireland podcast with Jamie Moore here. Final question from the Hilton Hotel. Exposed man number 1, exposed man number 2. You know what's coming now. Who wants it first? Bows against Cork, the Darragh Leahy tackle, the Penno, the best debate in Irish football ever. Yes or no, and why? Do you want it first?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Look, I'm going to look at it from 2 point of views. If I'm the striker and that tackle's made on me, I'm screaming for a penalty. But knowing Darragh for a long time, when I've looked at it back, I think it is a very difficult one. I think he maybe does make it easier for the ref, but if you look at it, I think he touches the ball and then the Cork player kicks him. So from Darragh's point of view, it's not a penalty, but as I said, if I'm the striker, I'm screaming for one.
So yes penno or no penno?
It's a no penno for me, you know.
Karl?
No penno, not at all. I think he's in control of the tackle. I think he's in total control, because he's on the spin, he's watching the ball, and it's great skill to actually make the tackle. He's not gone in with excessive force, and I just think the 2 of them are there going for the ball. One gets there first. I think it's the most ridiculous rule in football, is the high foot. If whoever wins it gets penalised, even though they both go for it at an equal height. So it's no penalty for me. I think if it wasn't given, people wouldn't be talking about it, but just the fact that it was given and that it was so costly, I think that's what's causing the outrage. So no penalty for me.
Yeah, for me, I think no penalty as well, but I can see why it was given. I don't think Darragh Leahy needed to make the tackle necessarily. Ian Morris probably could have won the header better, but 87 minutes, you're going, don't make that tackle in the box. He's made the tackle, it's gone to a replay, and they're going to have to play again on Monday week, and I'm sure the lads will be watching that one. But first, they've got to focus on their playoff game this Friday and Monday. It's Drogheda against Shels. First leg in United Park on Friday, second leg in Talk on Monday. I won't be there on Friday. I'll be at the Radio Awards in my nice suit. I'll be dressed like him, but I'll be there on Monday, so the best luck to both of you. Thanks, Gareth.
Thanks, Jamie.
Mersey, thanks a million.
Thanks.